Joe Rogan hasn't said anything too stupid, at least stupid enough to warrant my coverage, or at least not that I'm aware of over the course of the last couple of months. So maybe he's trying to play it straight to prove all of us wrong about what we thought about him previously, but he certainly broke that streak in a recent podcast episode with Tulsi Gabbard, because he's going to recite one of the dumbest fake stories of the year, if not of the last 5 years or so. Now, he's fallen for fake stories before, but this is by far the dumbest of all of them, because he's going to claim that students are using litter boxes at schools if said students identify as cats. Now, this is a claim that has been spread multiple times in multiple school districts. We'll talk about the history of this myth, and I've debunked it multiple times, but now that it is being broadcasted on the largest podcast on the planet, these claims are going to spread exponentially, but let's see what he has to say.
There's kids, ready for this? My friend, his wife, is a school teacher, and she works at a school that had to install a litter box in the girls' room because there is a girl who's a furry who identifies as an animal, and her mother badgered the school until they agreed to put a litter box in one of the stalls. Yeah. So this girl goes into the litter room, or to the girls' room, and urinates or whatever. I don't know if she poops in it. That's pretty gross. You know what I mean? Like, if you could teach your cat, by the way, here's the thing. If you could teach your cat to use the toilet, you would. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want a box of piss in your house. It's the worst. I've had cats my whole life. It's the worst thing about having cats. You got to clean that box of piss every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's the greatest thing about dogs. They go outside. Like, you're a fucking
the
human.
The cat's got their humans trained.
Imagine how crazy that is. You're a fucking human being, and you prefer a litter box. You want to piss into a pile of sand rather than use a bathroom that you could flush the toilet, wipe yourself like a normal person. Like, you're so crazy with what you think an animal is that not only have you said this, but you've conned the school into putting this fucking litter box in a girl's room.
Yeah.
Which is bananas.
It is.
Oh, Joe, you dumb bitch. First of all, I don't know if I believe that his friend told him this. I don't know if he's making that up, but one of you are lying here, either you or your friend or your friend's wife. Listen, whenever somebody tells me something that's really unbelievable, I ask for proof. If one of your friends tells you something that's super bizarre, wouldn't you say, prove it, show me a picture? Why hasn't a single person who has made this claim been able to produce a shred of evidence? Why have we not seen a single picture of a litter box in a school? I mean, if you really wanted to prove this, if there were no evidence, it's easy enough to fake. You could just find some public bathroom, put a litter box in it, shit in it, take a picture of that, and then you can at least spread that onto the internet. It'd take a little bit longer to be debunked, but they're not even trying. They're just repeating what one person says after hearing that from a different person. It's like conspiracy theory telephone, and the myth just won't die. Now, forgive me if you've already seen where this came from before, because we've talked about this on the program, but this claim originated in December of 2021 when one mom said that she heard someone tell her that there were litter boxes in schools for students who identify as furries. Now, a video was uploaded to the Midland Public School District YouTube channel, and that video went viral after it was shared by libs of TikTok, but this is what I'm talking about. This is where the myth originated.
I want to talk about the fact that, and I know this is going on nationwide, so it is not just for this board, but our community needs to understand that the agenda that is being pushed through our schools is, just my opinion, but somewhat nefarious when it comes to some of the activities. So let's talk about furries. It was addressed by a child a couple months ago that they are put in an environment where there are kids that identify as a furry, a cat or a dog, whatever. And so yesterday I heard that at least one of our schools in our town has in one of the unisex bathrooms, a litter box for the kids that identify as cats.
Now, after she said that, the school district had to come out and say, no, this is not happening, but the myth continued to spread. And school district after school district after school district has had to come out and say, no, we're not putting litter boxes in the restrooms for students, after parents hear that claim and then they accuse the school of doing just that. This has happened in Tennessee after a Republican state senator claimed that it was happening. It happened in Michigan, where the school district there had to deny this claim. This was the case in Iowa. It was also the case in Wisconsin and in New York and Indiana. And the Republican gubernatorial nominee in Colorado, Tudor Dixon, didn't necessarily say that students were shitting in litter boxes at schools, but she did release a list of 30 schools who were allegedly accommodating students that identify as cats. And again, in that instance, multiple school districts in Colorado had to come out and say, no, this is just not happening. And one school official, Brett Miles, said these claims are exhausting. It's a distraction, right? Because they have to take time out of their day to investigate the claims coming from the parents, and it just never ends. So the way that this keeps spreading is that original video, it went viral. Then somebody, seemingly a few months later, saw it, repeated that claim on social media. That claim then went viral, and it just keeps happening. Now, the reason why these claims, as absurd as they are persuasive to a lot of Republicans and concerned parents is because the way that they are seemingly, or at least ostensibly, linked to LGBTQ plus issues, right? Because we see the hysteria over trans issues. And we see this Republican claim that, well, if my son can now become a girl and identify as a woman, then what's stopping other students from identifying as cats? It's similar to the gay marriage argument, right? Oh, well, if I as a man can marry another man, then why can't I marry another dog? This is the trans equivalent of that. So it is a tertiary issue with regard to transphobia, right? It's linked to transphobia. And to prove that, well, in this same podcast episode, Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard engaged in transphobia, where they praised self-described theocratic fascist Matt Walsh's documentary, where he just tries to eradicate the existence, or disprove, I should say, the existence of trans people, even if that is his end goal. But take a look.
The ultimate checkmate is, what's a woman?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're coming to with wokeness and you can identify as a woman, you get to use the female restroom. Like, okay, but what is it?
Yeah.
What's a woman? You know, can a man get pregnant? Yes. Okay, well, what is it? Can a biological male get pregnant? And then people panic and they start, the people that identify as a woman are capable of being pregnant, and people that identify as a male are capable of also being pregnant. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
Say, if you identify as a woman, what are you identifying as? Like, that's the documentary, the Matt Walsh documentary.
Exactly.
Which is fucking amazing. And also amazing that no one's reviewing it.
Mm-hmm.
No one's reviewing it. That documentary is fantastic because Matt Walsh and you can only get it on the Daily Wire, I think, which is unfortunate, but I get it. You know, I get it. The Daily Wire produced it. They want people to sign up, and they're creating this alternative platform for content. But that documentary is so good because Matt Walsh simply asks questions, and he does it deadpan.
Yep.
And it's amazing watching these people just like twist reality into some weird fucking contortionist knot. It's like, what are you saying? What is a woman? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's so revealing.
You know, you're marching for women's rights, but what does that mean? So if I decide I'm a woman and I go out, you're marching for me? I'm a woman now.
Right.
You could just say it?
Yeah.
Like, we can't have that. That doesn't make sense. And it doesn't mean you can't have trans people. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
You can most certainly...
And it doesn't mean you're against.
Yes. Yeah,
anyone.
You're not denying anyone's existence either. They exist. However, if you want to be pregnant, you must be a biological female. This is science.
Well, I've just got to say that I'm really happy to see Joe Rogan back on the pro-science bandwagon again, because for all of 2021, he was spreading a lot of medical misinformation with regard to COVID-19 and vaccines and ivermectin. So it's nice to see that all of a sudden he values science if he believes he can use science for his anti-trans agenda. But the question, what is a woman? I mean, if it's such a gotcha, if it's so easy to answer it, then answer that question. You know, he talks about how there's this confusion over who can and can't get pregnant. I mean, it's really not that confusing. There are individuals who are non-binary, who are trans men, who have reproductive organs that have children. It's that simple. Trans men can get pregnant. Nobody's saying that if you don't have the reproductive organs, you're going to be able to get pregnant. That's not what anybody is saying. So this is nothing but a straw man, right? And what I want to encourage everyone to do, rather than just debunking that claim myself, I want to point everyone to the problem with Jon Stewart's episode on gender issues, because he, I think, did the most thorough deconstruction of all transphobic arguments that I've ever seen. He challenges a right-wing attorney general, and what he did was flawless. And I dare anyone who's transphobic to watch that and try to come up with some counter arguments, because it is very difficult, because its arguments are soundproof, because they are grounded in data, in the medical consensus, right? So the reason why I showed you that clip primarily is to show you the way that this litter box myth is being championed by people who are also hysterical over trans issues. Now, the last thing that I want to show you to put a cherry on top of this shit sundae is the way that they praised an anti-LGBTQ governor who single-handedly perhaps repopularized anti-LGBTQ plus hate in this country, Ron DeSantis.
I mean, I think if they had someone like Ron DeSantis, who seems to be like the most reasonable amongst the potential candidates, he seems to be, a pretty no-nonsense guy, not without his flaws, but he's more reasonable than anything that I'm seeing on the left.
Yeah.
At least with the way he handled COVID.
Yeah.
He's more reasonable than anyone on the left, and Tulsi Gabbard agrees. She's just jumping right into this new Republican grift, right? She just left the Democratic Party yesterday, and in that same day when this podcast episode was recorded, she's already on the DeSantis train. Now, I love how in the last clip that I showed you, he claimed that, we've got to trust the science. But here, he's praising DeSantis, claiming that he's reasonable because of his COVID response. Let me remind you what Ron DeSantis did. He basically did nothing to handle COVID-19, but what was especially egregious is the way that he banned schools from implementing mask mandates. I thought that you were pro-science, Joe Rogan. What does the science say about masks? What, do you think that they're faulty as well? Because that isn't what the scientific consensus believes. And if Joe Rogan actually believes that, I would encourage him the next time that he has surgery, instruct your surgeon to not wear masks. Let them cough inside of your body and see how you feel about that. I think that you might argue, I'd feel better if you had the mask on, right? So Joe Rogan is an imbecile, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. He brings on people, guests in particular, that just will agree with him or parrot what he has to say. He very rarely brings on somebody who will challenge him.
Yeah.
But this is Joe Rogan. This isn't necessarily a surprise to see him fall for another dumb story, but just to see how dumb this story is. It really proves how unintelligent he is, how he is just not intellectually curious. Because again, a normal person who doesn't have a massive platform, if you heard something preposterous like he heard from your friend, wouldn't you say, bullshit, give me proof, show me a picture? But he's not curious enough to ask that. He just thinks, oh, well, the schools have gone woke, so this must be true. I'll take it at face value and then repeat that on my podcast to millions of viewers. It's just frustrating, but this is why misinformation spreads. And now I feel very sad for the school districts who are going to be receiving calls after listening to this podcast asking whether or not their kids are shitting in litter boxes at schools, because a lot of school officials around the country are going to have to, again, debunk this claim because dipshits like Joe Rogan are repeating it, and the dipshits who listen to him themselves are not curious enough to investigate this. Look, rather than harassing the school districts, if you are skeptical still, visit the schools. Talk to the principal, ask if they can show you the bathrooms, and see for yourself. Odds are you will not find any litter boxes, and if you do, then we have a problem. But until then, shut the fuck up and show us the evidence. Otherwise, stop spreading this goddamn myth that just won't die. Holy shit.
Up yours, up yours, up yours.
Sons of bitches, bitches, bitches.
Woke moralist, woke moralist, woke moralist.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly. I let her have her way. Her genital region was exposed. I let her have her way.